Raf, we're live.
In 3, 2. Welcome to the Golf Podcast Live. I'm your host, Rafael Kalamat, alongside Michael Bleackley. I'm in Toronto. Mike is in Vancouver. And we have a very special guest today to recap the 150th British Open, or as we call it now, the Open. Welcome to the show. We've got Matt Adams. How are you?
I'm doing well, guys. How are you?
Excellent. Thanks for coming again, Matt. This is fantastic.
My pleasure.
Not only is Matt Adams the host of Fairways of Golf, he is also a Golf Channel host and analyst. And I couldn't believe it. I am for years listening to the Open radio. And who do I hear this time? We hear Mr. Matt Adams with some great analysis, gets paired in that final pairing with Cameron Smith. So interesting this year, Matt, with Young, McIlroy, Hovland, Fleetwood, Dustin Johnson, Spieth, even DeChambeau in the mix. Tell us about your arrival. Let's go back to the beginning without jumping ahead into the players, but arriving at the Open, the feel that you had at the Open in town. Maybe we could start with that.
Yeah, we ended up, I got in with my producer, Dominic, the week prior. I had left North America and actually flew into Ireland for a few days. And so I was hanging out with some friends and family and playing a couple rounds of golf and just kind of chilling out there. And then on the Tuesday of the week prior, flew into Edinburgh, and from Shannon, Ireland to Edinburgh, and stayed at a hotel that's, I don't know if you guys have been to it, just outside of town, called the Fairmont. Have you seen that one? It's where the European Tour is playing their Hero Open, in fact. So we got in, kind of set up shop at the Fairmont, and they have this shuttle that runs nonstop into the heart of the old Grey Tune into St. Andrews. So we were doing the Fairways of Life show while we were there. And because Fairways of Life is digital radio, streaming television, and broadcast television on the weekend, the reason we were in so early was we had a tremendous amount of production get done, features that get done. We did one on the World Golf Museum. We did one on the Dunvegan Pub. We did one on the Kingsbarn Distillery. I did another one on the Swilken Bridge. And so we're putting all these different elements together, shooting, all the stuff that you have to do to be ready. And then it was really cool because one of my favorite things to do in the game of golf, whether we do it through an electronic medium on a daily or weekly basis, or in the rare cases when we get to do it in person, and that is to bring someone to a place and give them an experience that they've never had before. In many cases around our game of golf, something that they've only dreamed of, a bucket list. So we were walking down to, and for people that haven't been to St. Andrews, it's very concise. Everything is tightly packed in. So we were walking from, you have the side of the R&A building that everyone's just seen behind the first tee or looking at it from the 18th green. But when you're on the other side of the road, it's not as recognizable a building. So Dom, my producer, had never been there before. And so Dom's kind of a spaz, and he was doing what he normally does. He had emails going, and he's telling me about this, and he's telling me about that, and he's going on. And I'm trying to get him to focus where we are. We came walking down the hill from the graveyard and the cathedral ruins, and I was showing him where they used to throw the witches off the cliff. They would tie their thumbs to their big toes, and if they sank, they were innocent, and if they floated, they were guilty of being a witch. I showed him the Archer's Hill, which is behind what is now the Golf Museum, that in 1457, the king had outlawed golf because the soldiers were spending too much time playing golf and playing what they called football, soccer, instead of practicing their archery. So both sports were outlawed. And I was showing that to him. And then as we get to the R&A building, I don't remember what he was talking to me about, what text was coming in or a message that was critically important to him at the time. But because I have some friends that have invited me into the R&A building before, I knew where the display case was, that as soon as you walk in on the right, there's a glass display case that has the original claret jug. And the original leather belt, that was won after 3 times winning. He ended up winning 4 in a row, but after 3 times winning in a row, young Tom Morris got the belt. And then they said, now what are we going to do?
Yeah.
So that's why they got the claret jug. That was in 1871. It was awarded for the first time in person in
Very cool.
1872. So I'm peeking through the window and I'm looking at the claret jug and the leather belt. I'm trying to get Dom's attention. Finally, I kind of get his attention. I said, Dom, if you peek through this glass, you can see the original claret jug and the belt. So we kind of look in and still distracted. So we walk another 20 steps and we go down those cement steps that divide the first tee and the 18th green.
Right.
And it hit him like it hits everyone when they're there for the first time. And I look back at him and he was actually getting emotional because all of a sudden you're thrust onto that stage that you are so familiar with. But a lot of people, again, just don't recognize it walking up to it because it's right in the middle of town. So anyway, that's how it started for us. That was the kind of week that we had. And that was before we charged into the actual week of the Open itself.
Wow.
Before I throw it over to Mike, Matt, when you said that, I got goosebumps. And there's something to be said for that. If you've spent your life playing golf, it's sort of on the bucket list. Mike and I have been talking about it for over 25 years. And we were supposed to go out this year. We did get our media credentials. It's just our lifestyle and the responsibilities we had at home didn't allow us to go. However, you just got to be able to make it, right? You just got to be able to get out there and do it. And I think anybody who's involved in golf in any shape or form should make the trip over there.
It's definitely a mecca. There's no doubt about that. Like I said, people getting emotional is not unusual. I don't know if you're familiar with John McGinnis, former PGA Tour player. And he's one of the broadcasters on PGA Tour Radio. Yes. And I was teeing off there with John some years ago. And, you know, we hit our opening tee shots on number 1, and we're walking off the first tee. And I turned to John. This was John's first time. And I turned to John to say to him, it was a beautiful sunny day, to say, isn't this incredible? And here's this guy that's played in major championships and played almost a decade on the PGA Tour. And when I look back at him, he had tears rolling down his face. Just it's that moving an experience.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I don't know if I mentioned it last time, but my great grandfather was a greenskeeper at St. Andrews before moving to Ontario and you know, continuing with his teaching career. But
wow.
So it's I got to go back. It's in the blood. And you know, then quite a few years ago, my grandmother and mother went over there, and just quickly, the head pro gave them a private tour of the whole facility, everything but the men's room, the men's locker room or lounge. They got a escorted tour of the facility. So yeah, I'll probably cry when I get there. So
well, so now I'm the one who just got a chill up my spine hearing that story. That's very cool.
Yeah. So no, that's awesome. So quick question: how many pints did you have while you were there? You could.
I didn't keep a careful tally on that, to be fair. I like whiskey, and so I was able to sample an array of different. I like single malt whiskey, which you know, in North America a lot of people call Scotch. But so the place for single malt whiskey obviously is Scotland. So I was trying a lot of different whiskeys. I did have a number when I go in like that. I like to have, you know, the local beers. So I was having Bellhaven Best. I was having Caledonia. I was enjoying a lot of the pints that were kind of particular to Scotland, and in some cases particular to this region of Scotland. So it was an array. You know, a couple of glasses of wine with dinner. We had some really nice meals. I have a philosophy when I'm traveling, and that is that if, for example, I'm back in Ireland, or in this case in Scotland, I don't go out and try to find, say, an Italian restaurant or something like that. I try to eat what the locals eat. Right. And so when you're back in Ireland, for me, or when in this case, again, back in Scotland, I eat a lot of fish. So, you know, I had some really, really delicious meals. Scotland is really good with its lamb. It's although it's a little early in the season for lamb right now, but it's really good with the lamb. It's really, obviously really good with the fish. And so we had plenty of haggis. No, I like it. I like haggis because as a couple of Canadians, you guys can appreciate, I'm an old hockey player for the Northeast, and I can't smell well from having a broken nose. So I love spicy food. So haggis, haggis is maligned often, but I like it. I had it every day.
Yeah. So what Scotch stood out to you, or single malt? You got a couple names to drop for us?
Well, I mean, for me, it's Macallan's is my favorite. I don't know. Are you guys
Yes.
whiskey fans? I think. Go ahead, Mike.
I've been definitely the last decade been getting into it, but I had a horrible night when I was 16, drinking way too much of it. I learned a hard lesson, so it took me a while to come around. But the last decade, I've been getting into into it. So Macallan's obviously a solid one, but I mean, we're pretty lucky in Canada. We have access to a wide array of fine whiskey.
Oh yeah, I have the 99 whiskey right up there on my mantle right now. In fact, from proud product of the great one. But I enjoyed the Macallan's a lot. I like its earthy flavor that I get from it. Glenfiddich, and that was a 12-year-old. I think it's the best 12-year-old there is. I had a Glenfiddich 15. That was probably the best 15 I think that I've ever had. I did get an 18-year-old Macallan's at one place, just because I felt like doing it. So anyway, I tried an array, and if for anyone that's listening or watching or whatever, you have been to Scotland, they give you such tiny little portions because it's all measured by law that you could try a pretty good array without having to worry about going back to the 16-year-old you and having an issue.
Yeah.
Matt, I'm noticing that you've picked up a little bit of an accent. Some of the things that you said, great tune. You've got
the old great tune, yeah.
But there's
that was what that was another funny thing, because having Dom there with me, about 80% of the time, maybe not that high a percentage, 60-70% of the time, he could not understand a word they were saying. So I felt a little bit like a translator.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Funny. But that's great. But I love, there's something to be said about tradition and history of the game. The RNA kind of oozes all of that. And once you get there, it kind of hits you and you feel that. I was part of a club called the Royal Montreal Golf Club, where I was an assistant professional. It started in 1873, and it's the affiliate club to the Royal and Ancient. I certainly felt that history even in that clubhouse, and all the affiliated items that are encased in glass, and it's wonderful to see. But that kind of brings me full circle into a conversation that everyone was talking about a week ago, and that's Greg Norman not being able to play the Open, a two-time Open winner, a #1 player in the world, who was basically Tiger Woods before Tiger Woods became who he was. He was the most recognizable face. He promoted the game, and he did a wonderful job. Obviously, he was very controversial starting in the 90s, slowly working its way up to what is happening now with Live Golf. Your thoughts on the decision by the RNA not to allow him, one, to play, that's understandable, but two, not to partake in all the activities prior to the Open starting?
Mainly the dinner.
Yeah, the dinner. We also had on the Monday prior, we had a celebration of champions. I'm not sure how much of that was carried back to North America, where you guys were. I was sent out there because we were doing you mentioned the radio. I do the world radio feed of the Open for, I don't know how many years I've been doing it, but it's a long time. But it's my favorite week of the entire year. So on that Monday, they pretty much just gave me a microphone and said, "We're going live, have at it." So I went out there and I just kind of positioned myself in a way so that when you had these groups that were put together, and it might be they're all champions, but it might be an individual male or female that's a champion at, say, a disabled golf event. It could be a women's event, it could be a men's event, but they're all put together of these groups of champions. And so what I would do is I would wait for a player, like tee shots were struck or what have you, and I'd walk up and say, "Hey, can we do a walk and talk?" So I mean, I had this. This is the Monday prior of tournament proper, right? It's going to start Thursday. So here on Monday, and I had a chance to speak to Colin Morikawa. I think was the first one that I interviewed, and I said, hey, Colin, can we do a walk and talk? And I remember him saying to me, he goes, I don't know. Am I allowed to? I said, yeah, I think you're allowed to. So we did that interview. We got Jordan Spieth. One of my favorite ones was Lee Trevino, because, you know, here we are at this arguably the grandest stage in the game of golf, right? For so many different reasons. And if you think back to the videos that you've seen of 1970, when Doug Sanders was that far from winning the Open, and he bent down. He told me he didn't know if it was a piece of debris or a piece of grass or what have you, but he bent down and picked something up. And he went back into his position again. And reportedly, again, this is what Doug Sanders told me a few years back. He said that he found out later that Ben Hogan was at home in Texas screaming at his television, going, back off, Doug, back off, Doug, back off, Doug. Remember, Doug Sanders finished second in major championships 5 times, and he didn't back off. He carried on and he hit the putt. Of course, he missed the putt, playoff the next day. Nicklaus beats him in the playoff, and that is history. So if you ever get a chance to see that video, say on YouTube or whatever, the one that's in the background is Lee Trevino. And when Doug Sanders misses that putt, Lee Trevino spins around like as if he missed it with that level of frustration. So here we were on the old course. I'm walking and interviewing Lee Trevino, and I couldn't help myself with all the glory that this man's had of winning multiple Opens and majors himself. I had to ask him about that incident. It's one of the most famous incidents to ever happen at the old course. So he explained to me about what happened and how he wanted Doug to back away and blah, blah, blah. It was incredible. So anyway, that's how the afternoon went on. I got a chance to speak to everybody, and it was a great celebration. And that celebration carried on into the dinner. The R&A's decision to not invite Greg Norman, essentially, if I was translating what they said, paraphrasing too, was that they didn't want the distraction of having Greg Norman on hand. However, these great champions, aside from, say, Jack Nicklaus coming in, they really didn't do press conferences. So I don't know. I never heard that, you know, that Greg was planning on having his own press conference and inviting media to it. He would have got a great attendance, I'm sure. But I never heard that was his intent. And I wonder if they could have said to him, hey, listen, we just want you to play it low key. This isn't about rival leagues or anything else. This is about celebrating you guys in the game of golf. So my instinct tells me that it was probably an overreaction to not allow him to participate in anything. But the reason that they didn't was because they didn't want it to detract from the event itself, from the Open. So that's kind of the two sides.
No, Matt, do you have a personal opinion on that? How do you feel about?
Yeah, my personal opinion is that I think it was tended to be an overreaction.
Okay.
Having been there and seeing all the events that took place, being right there when it was all taking place, I could see Greg Norman, you know, mixing in there. I know right now that it's seemingly everyone, at least on a media side, wants to cast good guys and bad guys, and you know, to each their own in terms of what their opinions are with all that stuff. But in that instance, I think the game of golf and the history of the golf would have trumped any other concerns. I just think it illustrates that there are such heightened concerns out there right now that's why they made that call.
I think it'll be regretted in a few years. And I don't know Norman personally, but I would assume as the professional athlete and character that he is, he would have kept it professional there. He wouldn't have stirred the pot and would have focused on the celebration of the 150th Open tournament. I think it was regrettable. And, you know, like the pictures, there's going to be a picture of everybody together, and Greg Norman is ousted out of that. So, I mean, Craig Can pointed that out last week. I thought that was a good point, because that's going to be there for forever. So, yeah. So,
well, I think, you know, this Open, this 150th Open was distinctive in multiple ways. St. Andrews has a tendency to put a period at the end of the sentence. Yeah. And what I mean by that is, in this Open, for example, that celebration of champions I was telling you about, that group was Georgia Hall, Lee Trevino, Rory McIlroy, and Tiger Woods. So once they went out, I stayed with them through the entire loop, and that's why I got a chance to speak with all of them, etc.
Did they play four holes? They played four. Okay.
Yeah, 1, 2, 17, 18. So when we came through 17, because players were waiting to hit their drives, they were hitting the drive the 18th, which takes me again back to 1970, because in that playoff, Jack Nicklaus not only drove the green, he drove through the green 356 yards. 1970. So here they were having to wait. And if they were having to wait, we all were right there watching what was happening. Of course, Lee Trevino was holding court, which was incredible. And you could see the guys laughing. You could see Georgia Hall laughing. And then a cart pulls up, and out of the buggy steps Jack Nicklaus. And so Jack Nicklaus now walks up to this group, and he's hanging out with the four of them. Finally, the green clears. They all hit their drives. They all hit great drives. As I recall, Rory and Tiger were either both on the green, or one was on and one was just long left, but they both were plenty of stick, which was interesting because the wind shifted the next day and a driver couldn't get you home. On Thursday. So when they hit their drives, they all walk up to the Swilken Bridge, and Jack Nicklaus, Lee Trevino, Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy, Georgia Hall, all of them are getting their pictures taken on the Swilken Bridge. And then amazing. It was amazing. And then you had Jack and you had Lee taking their picture on the bridge. And then finally you had Jack and Tiger, right? The two greatest professionals of all time on that bridge together. We're watching all this. And what I'm getting at, the reason why I'm recounting this to you is, here with Jack Nicklaus and Lee Trevino, you've got men that are already in their 80s. Here with Phil Mickelson, you've got a man that's already in his 50s. Here with Tiger Woods, with a lot of mileage on the chassis, you've got a guy in his middle 40s. We don't know when we're going to be back at St. Andrews again for an Open, but it's going to be years no matter what.
Yeah.
Chances, and I'm not trying to bring anybody down with this, but just be a realist. Chances are better than not that when we go back, the world of golf and the prominent individuals that we still are blessed to have amongst us in our presence will not either be playing full time, be competitive as golfers, or will not even be with us on this earth anymore. It was that significant a week with everything that was floating around.
So many great moments during the Open. Obviously, let's talk about the new cast of characters. You had Smith, Young, McIlroy, Tommy Fleetwood, Victor Hovland, even Brian Harman, Dustin Johnson, Patrick Cantlay, all running from 20 under all the way to 13 under. But really, I want to talk about some of the most memorable shots that you either experienced, saw, or heard. For myself, the most memorable thing is the anticipation of the first tee shot, right? Everything leading up to the Open, it's electric. Even if you're not there, I could feel it in my bones. I could feel it in my blood. And so the anticipation of Tiger teeing off and wondering what's going to happen at this Open. And then my second memory is McIlroy holding that bunker shot. And I had to turn down the volume on my television set because it was blistering. It was awesome. And then obviously Cameron making the putt on 17. It was kind of the culmination of so many great shots, so many great moments. But that's kind of rounds it off for me. How about for you, Matt? What do you remember most as far as defining moments or shots?
It's interesting, the moments that you picked. With me, I'm an outdoor cat, so they keep me in the field all the time. And so we go on the air Eastern time. We're on the air at 1:30 a.m. Which is 2:30, 3:30, 4:30, 6:30 a.m. local time that we go on the air. And the first place that they always send me is to the first tee. And my job is it's amazing. I just stand there with a microphone and tell people what I see. What's going on, the wind direction, the song of the seagulls, who's on the tee, and I wait while the announcement is made on the tee, blah blah blah, and I'll describe where they hit the tee shot, and if it's a compelling group, I'll stroll down number one with them and call their second shot. If they hit it really tight, I might call their birdie or what have you. So all those opening tee shots until my group went off, and my group didn't go off until the afternoon on Thursday, because believe it or not, I ended up, for whatever reason, I ended up getting assigned to follow Rory McIlroy on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So the first 3 rounds, I had Rory McIlroy.
Great.
Rory, of course, was last off on Sunday. I was the penultimate group, so I ended up with Cam Smith on Sunday.
Yeah.
It was just pure luck.
How perfect.
Yeah,
It was
great
crazy.
draw. Great draw.
It was just crazy. It was just pure luck that it worked out that way. And because the old course is so narrow, we're close enough that I can actually hear the players talking to each other. And because you can't get that far away from them, because as you try to back away from a green, the tee boxes are built kind of behind and over the green. So you got to be careful about where you go. So the Rory's hole out from that bunker, I was working with Matthew Southgate. I don't know if you recognize his name from the European Tour, now called the DP World Tour.
Yeah.
And Matthew was doing radio with us, and they were on another shot at the time. And I said to the producer, I said, Rory's about to hit his second shot here. Can you roll on us? And what that means is that we don't do it much, but that means that there's something happening. That was his drive, obviously hit that bunker. There's something happening that is significant enough that you should roll on it just in case magic takes place. So I said to him, Matthew Southgate will have the call. Matthew had that call. I'm sure you could find it online. It's got hundreds and hundreds of thousands of listens now. It went viral. And
he was loud.
He went insane. You could barely understand what he was saying. He was talking so fast. He went absolutely insane as Rory blasted out, which was important at the time because of what was happening in terms of where Victor was, already drove the green, et cetera, et cetera. So that shot I will never forget. And now I have cans on. I have the headsets on like you guys do now. So it wasn't as loud to me as it was, I'm sure, to the rest of the world because my ears were being insulated, but it was still the loudest roar, the loudest scream I've ever heard on a golf course. And that takes nothing away from Augusta National and the cheers for things that Tiger has done over the years. Just as an example, it was just because it was so shocking to everyone that it went in, that's the way the roar happened. On Friday, again, I'm with Rory's group, and it was just one of these magical crossroads. Rory's teeing off one. They hit their tee shots coming down one. We're preparing for the second shot, and at the exact same time, Tiger is crossing the Swilken Bridge to finish his second round. It just was, again, pure happenstance that these two events took place at the exact same time. So I feel fortunate because I felt like I was standing at the crossroads of history once again, watching that and watching Tiger. And I took a bunch of photos that I put on my social media of Tiger crossing the Swilken Bridge. So yeah, that was
picture of you, Matt. I think there's a picture I saw that where Tiger was crossing. You were in the background taking a photo. Is that possible?
Yeah, that was the one. That was because I was on the inside of the golf course, and all the people, of course, are on the outside. They were on Links Road.
Right.
So all those photos that were taken, I was on the other side of the bridge, so you could see us standing there on the other side. And I had my 2 microphones because I have one for my broadcast partner and myself for them holding up. That's how you knew it was me. So it was crazy. And then what Cam did at 17 just made no sense. On that day, I was working with Paul Eales, who's on the Legends Tour and the European Tour. Now he's a winner in the European Tour, great dude. And he pulls his approach shot left. We thought it was going to be in the road hole bunker, and it wasn't, obviously. And he chooses to hit putter up there to 12 feet, I'll give it.
Yeah,
and he makes that putt. And that was the, again, because he was the winner, I would define that as the most clutch shot, even though Rory's was incredibly dramatic for the time. But again, Cam won. That was the most clutch shot I've ever seen in my life, that he was able to make par from where he was. Actually, the putt that he hit was so good because it's so dangerous. What people don't realize is that the road hole bunker is dangerous enough in and of itself in terms of its shape and contouring. But the way that they shape the top of it, it's almost like a bowl, that everything is going to run down into that bunker. And he putted through the bowl, and you had to do it with enough inertia to get up the ridge over the top of it, and then you got to worry that you judged it correctly, that it wouldn't go right through the green down the other side and go right back to where he was. So the whole thing was amazing.
It could have easily taken a deflection left or right or into the bunker had he not got that speed right. And once he made that putt, I said to my wife, I'm like, that's it. He's won, right? Because had he made bogey, then changes the dynamics for Rory, and Cameron Young could have been in the mix with that eagle on 18. Like,
even that finish, Mike, it was the fact that they told me you're assigned to the two cams. The fact that the other cam gets to 19 under par with that eagle on 18 for that fraction of a moment, right? For that moment, I'm on the air saying to the world,
he's tied.
At this moment, Cam Young is tied for the lead in the Open, right? And so then Cameron Smith steps into his putt, and I'm in line with him. I'm standing on the corner of the first tee. And I said into the microphone, when, as you guys know, doing broadcasting now, sometimes you don't know why you say what you say or what you do.
Right.
But I remember saying somewhere the ghost of Doug Sanders stirs, because it was a very similar line. What was that, Rap?
No, I was listening to this. I heard you live because I was coming back from golf lessons where I teach over in Oakville, Ontario in Canada, and over at Vic Hatfield's driving range. And I was listening to this, and then I had to rewatch it, but I heard you say that. And I'm like, I can't believe you just said that. I don't jinx him. Right?
The reason why, and you remember, I thought the same thought ran through my mind. It's funny you thought the same thing as me. As I said that, I then said, but surely this is Cam Smith with this game, this short game and putting game in particular that is so strong. Plus, his putt was not quite on the same angle, and it was a little bit shorter. So, of course, he steps up and he makes it. And at that point, we pretty much knew he had won the Open because Rory would have to hole out at that point. So anyway, that's I know that's a lot to unpack, but those are the memories that are the most acute of that week for me.
Yeah, it ended up being a fantastic week. And out here in the West Coast, the timing is tough to catch it. But Sunday, set a recording, and I went in radio silence for the morning. I didn't look at my phone. I just got up, coffee, started to watch it, and it was great. Could skip through the few commercials, and even like I spent 6 or 7 hours watching this recording, and just scared to catch a notification or anything that was going to blow it. And it was amazing. We both of us were glued to the TV for the whole afternoon. And
did you get it done, Mike?
Yeah.
Did you?
I got through.
Wow.
No spoilers. Yeah, no spoilers. So I was just, amazed. And really, I tried to look at the phone as little as possible. And when I did, I'd flick it up so any notifications would get cleared as I unlocked it. So so it was good. Yeah, we got all the way through it, and I even watched highlights and all the feedback after on Golf Channel, and it delivered. 150th really delivered at a great time in golf too. When we needed the drama, we needed that tension and excitement, and it happened. So it was a good win for golf.
It's aside from the entertainment and as you put it, the drama that comes from an Open at St. Andrews, I also think that it was good for the game at large because of all of these conflicting philosophies and everything that's going on in and around the game. One of the things that Live Golf or otherwise is doing to the game of golf is it's actually making the majors better. Because if the game is going to become in some way in terms of star power splintered for better or for worse, then the majors may be the forum, the stage where the world of golf actually does come together. And it's the time, as you noted, because of some of the different names, Raph, when we opened that were in the mix, that we're not seeing play on a week in, week out basis anymore. Here we had a chance to see them all competing against each other on that stage.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to thank you for your time and sharing these stories with us, our audience. Now we're on 17 different platforms. We're really thrilled to announce that our new partnership with AR Golf. AR Golf is a French company making custom designed clubs and putters, as well as irons. So we're really thrilled about that partnership. And listening to the Open just goes to show, on radio for me, really goes to show how descriptive and how you need to paint a picture for the listener. And that's what I love about radio. I did radio back in the mid 2000s on CJAD 800 AM, something called The Golf Show. And I learned very quickly that you have to really be descriptive. So you got to talk about the weather, the wind, people's clothing, what's happening in the moment, all the minute details that you wouldn't really think about when you're actually there or you're watching it on television, because you're absorbing all that. And I think, Matt, you did such a wonderful job. So congratulations on doing a great job. I'm looking forward to listening to you in the future. Mike, did you want to end off by saying anything?
Well, as you mentioned, the platforms, if anyone doesn't mind sharing, engaging, retweeting, we always appreciate that. Goes a long way. And again, thank you, Matt, for joining us. And, we didn't even have to ask you for a story. You just naturally delivered them. So no, that was fantastic. So,
well, I'm proud of what you guys are doing. I love the fact that your forum, your platform, your distribution is expanding, your sponsorships and associations. It's good for the game. I love the fact that people can get whatever they want from this sport now, any way they can get it from different perspectives and different voices. And so well done. So on behalf of all of us that are fans too, thanks to you guys.
Excellent.
Cheers. All right. For Michael Bleackley, I'm Rafael Kalamat. You've been listening to the Golf Podcast Live with Matt Adams. Make sure you find him on Twitter, on Facebook, and all the different platforms like YouTube. He's the host of Fairways of Life and a host on the Golf Channel. Thanks for having us, and thanks for coming on. We'll see you soon.
My pleasure.